morning, good afternoon, good evening, whatever time it is that you're watching or listening to this. Welcome to the freezing garage here in Springfield, West Virginia for the inaugural taping of the Trip 4. We are here to have a little fun, talk about, we'll get into what the whole thing is with the show, why we came up with it and everything. But I think the first thing that we need to do is introduce who the heck we are. Some of you, hopefully, if you're watching this, at least know who this guy is. I'm not really all that important, but I'll get into who I am. But why don't you introduce yourself?
I'm Trevor Ashby. I'm a PBA Tour bowler. I mean, I've bowled a couple events already, so yeah, I'm the dude on the show here. So
he's the reason that this is happening, and I'm his dad. My name's Mark. I know nothing about bowling. Well, I do because of him. I do because of him. But coming into his entire experience with becoming a bowler, first on the youth circuit and now on professional, now that he's turned 18, it's been a learning curve for me. So while there are some younger folks who have had the benefit of having either parents or who bowl, or they live in an area where there are coaches available to them, we're way out here in rural West Virginia.
Middle of
nowhere. As you can hear, just trucks going by outside, probably. So I don't have expertise in bowling. What I do have expertise in my day job is audio production and a little bit of video. So we came up with the idea to do a podcast, video cast, vlog, whatever you want to call this. And we're just going to, talk about mostly what's been going on with Trevor here, news in the bowling world, talk about SPI products, Storm, Roto Grip, and 900 Global. Because
maybe some ball reviews and stuff like that.
As you can see, he's got his branding on here. There's a Bill Chrisman memorial ball over his shoulder.
Only probably made a couple hundred of those.
Yeah, you probably can't see the
mini ball.
And the mini ball, yes, all of that. So anyway, the reason we called this the Trip 4, we were trying to come up with some names that had a bowling connection, but the reason that we settled on Trip 4 for a few things, obviously, if you're a bowler, you know what a Trip 4 is. A lot of people experience that on a daily basis. But we're going to have 4 topics in a show. And we're going to try to keep it, hopefully within like 20, 30 minutes. Sometimes it might go shorter, sometimes it might go longer, depending on what it is that we're talking about. But we think that's pretty easily digestible, that you have 4 topics in a show. Like he said, some will be about ball reviews, some might be about events that he does. We'll have Q&As, and then maybe just kind of a wild card segment here and there. So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to get started with segment number 1. Segment 1 on the first show should probably be, how did he get started in all of this youth bowling into now he's doing on the big boy tour, as we like to say. So it's kind of an interesting story. You got a later start than a lot of the kids who we met on like SYC and other tours that you have done. Why don't you tell folks, how did you come to enjoy this sport so much?
Well, whenever I was like little, well, not like little, but I was like, I'd say 6 or 7. It was my 7th birthday party. Was actually at a bowling alley locally, and I didn't really think of it as a sport. I thought of it as just kind of like a fun thing to do.
Yeah, go have a birthday party at the bowling alley. A lot of kids around here do that.
I was in first grade, whatever it was.
Second grade, yep.
So I was just like, well, okay, let's have a bowling birthday party. I would maybe bowl twice a year, and from like age 5 to 10.
Yeah, we would go very occasionally.
Yeah.
It was certainly not anything that was a main activity that we did. Not that we lived far away from a bowling alley, but at the time, we did have 2 centers where we lived in Western Maryland.
Yeah, one of them is unfortunately not here with us anymore, but and that was the one that we were at. But so that was just kind of like my first real introduction to bowling, like to have people around and that kind of stuff. So whenever I was 12. So that was the summer of 2018, June 14th to be exact. I know the date. It's kind of weird.
Nice to have this is the origin story of the hero here.
Yeah, I know. So June 14th, 2018 was like, I was 12 years old, so I was going to be 13 in a few months. And
Let me just preface what you're going to say by saying he kept coming to us. School hadn't been over for like a week.
yeah,
And he kept coming to us saying, I'm bored. I'm bored.
yeah,
What am I going to do? I'm bored. So
I had no idea. I had no idea what to do.
There was only so much playing in the yard that we could do. So, all right, continue the story.
Yeah, and I'll get to that, where I was just like, well, I mean, I tried football for a little bit. I was, not very good at that. I didn't love the contact part of it, and football's a contact sport, so I'm like, well, okay, this isn't for me. So I tried a catcher in baseball actually for a little bit. I wasn't in any like leagues or anything, but I tried that for briefly. And
I still think you could have been a good catcher, but
yeah, my hammies wouldn't like it.
yeah, well, and your running skills leave a lot to be desired.
Yeah, so I'm not very fast. So
you got the Ashby gene on that. Sorry.
Oh yeah, for sure. So I tried those kind of sports, and so I was just like, well, I mean, let's go bowling. Well, why not? I mean, try it out.
Yeah.
So
Kind of a mutual decision, as I recall.
Yeah.
Like, okay, fine, you're bored. Let's go bowl.
Yeah, something like that.
That's easy.
So so what we did, went to White Oak Lanes in Cumberland, Maryland, locally. So we were just like, well, okay, let's try this. So as we're walking into the center, we see the sign big sign on the front door that says "Kids Bowl Free." Any bowler out there or parents out there that have children that bowl may know what that is. And Storm actually did partner with them a little bit. Obviously, the company that it's sponsored by. So.
No, we didn't know anything about Storm, about any of the
No,
companies.
we didn't know
it was
anything.
just we could go in and just use a house ball and throw. We use their
Yeah.
shoes and everything.
Yeah, so-
we had no equipment.
Yeah.
Just something fun to do over the summer.
Yeah, and so we just kind of walked in. We got a lane, and I was bowling, and I was just kind of like, huh, I'm actually knocking down pins without bumpers.
Yeah.
So I mean, I tried bumpers, whenever I was little, but I was just like, well, maybe I can, take it up a notch and bowl with the gutters, put them into play. And at first, I was, probably averaging about, those maybe 2 free games that I had at Kids Bowl Free for the. We paid how much for the summer?
I should probably say, I don't know what the current going rate is, but I believe that at the time you paid one fee. Well, I know you paid one fee. I think it was like $30, like $29.95 or something, for the whole summer, from like Memorial Day into August, like when school starts. And it was, if you paid that one fee, then you could go in and you could bowl 2 free games all summer. You just showed them like, hey, I'm a member of Kids Bowl Free,
Yeah, you showed
and they
them
would
your
give you
card.
your 2 games. And parents can actually get on that too. I think yours is a slightly higher rate, but when I realized that, well, I'm going to be bowling a lot too, I paid my rate. And so, I mean, between the two of us, it probably was, I don't know, $30 to $40 for me. So, you're looking at like 60 to 70 total. But I'm telling you, we bowled way more games than that would have been if we would have paid for them individually, because this guy got hooked. It's a really fun program. Even if you're not going to be a serious bowler, it was just...
It exposes you.
Yeah, and it's just something great. Like, you can pay the one fee, like, oh, okay, well, it's a rainy day, whatever, can't do anything outside. Let's go to the bowling alley, get a couple free games in, and, get lunch while you're there. You might wind up becoming... you might wind up turning this into your vocation. It was so fun.
Best investment we've ever had.
Yeah, I mean, and it was just from a parent standpoint, it was really fun because this guy, we had no idea what he was going to get into. Like, he kept bouncing between things, not just sports, but just like, there wasn't his thing. His brother had a thing. He was really into like meteorology and chemistry and stuff. Like, he had interests. This guy didn't, and we didn't know what he was going to do. So out of some, summer frustrations, like, I got to entertain this kid who's bored. Now we're here. Now we're, hooked up with Storm SPI, and it's become the big journey that it is. Kids Bowl Free. I can't recommend it highly enough.
Yeah, so, we went in, got our lane, and started throwing one-handed. So this is where the story may go, like, how did you get the two-handed? So, in all honesty, I was not very good one-handed. So what I wound up doing was just like, okay, I can get more, spin on this ways.
Well, who did you see doing it first, and how did you see this?
Well,
because
I
we didn't
saw-
watch bowling on TV because the
Yeah.
season wasn't active. The season's
Yeah,
earlier in the year,
during
so
the
this
winter.
is summer, so
Yeah.
bowling wasn't on TV.
So on our little scoring units, we have like every time you like strike, spare, or even open, you have like this bowler, professional bowler.
Yeah, the graphics.
Yeah, the
what we're
graphics.
talking. You can do like
Yeah.
funny things like looks like miniature golf or whatever. But they had the pro bowlers up, the PBA
Yeah.
Tour one.
Yeah, and then I saw this guy by the name of Jason Belmonte bowl with 2 hands, and I'm like, that's a little funny. I'm like, I didn't really expect that. Normally, I just kind of expected it to just be, throw it down there with 1 hand.
Yeah.
And and then I was just like, okay, I'll try that. Man, I'll tell you what, that's the best decision I've ever made.
Your scores went up immediately. Like you were throwing maybe in like the 70s and 80s, and then it was like immediately you were bowling like 30, 40 pins higher.
Oh yeah, I was pretty consistently in the 100s with that, and I could get more spin on the ball, and I'm like, okay, that's kind of fun seeing the ball hook, and curve, and so.
So nobody taught you this?
No,
because
nobody
I don't
taught me.
know. I still can't bowl two-handed. I've tried. I'm a one-hander. I'm pretty much straight. I can't hook for anything.
Yeah, just
So
yeah.
So I didn't know how to tell him how to do any of this. So figuring it all out on your own, because until you got into a league, you didn't really have any other outside instruction. I was just, sort of like, okay, well, why don't you try this? And you're the one who figured it all out.
And I'll get into that too with the first league, so I got more spin on the ball. So I was just like, okay, that's kind of satisfying to see that and go through the pins a little bit differently, rather than just go straight on and have a split or whatever. So then I just kind of figured it out from there to see like, okay, you need angles. You just kind of figured out the geometry of all this. And I say all the time that bowling isn't just a sport; it's a science. And we'll get into more of that as we keep going.
Yeah.
But got more spin on the ball, and so that's whenever I just kind of got interested in going all the time, and just like, okay, it's kind of satisfying to see pins fall down all the time, because I've always loved throwing a ball, even though like if it was football, baseball, whatever. So I've always liked hitting a target. So that's where I figured out what the targets are, what the arrows, what the rangefinders down lane, any board on the lane. Like I just kind of figured out, okay, I'll throw it here and it'll do this.
You started watching a lot of YouTube videos. That's how you guys learn these days.
Oh yeah.
It was YouTube education, because I didn't know what to tell him. Neither did his mother. We're not. My dad was in a bowling league, but he wasn't any great shake. So he'll be the first to tell you that.
Was.
Yes, and great grandfather on the other side.
Yeah. And but we weren't really known for that in the family, so we were just kind of like, okay, I mean, something to do. And so.
And look where you are now.
Yeah, like,
we're here having a podcast of our own.
Yeah, exactly. And so that's where I'll get into our first league here. I didn't know what this word meant in the bowling world, which is called a sports shot. I had no idea what that meant.
Nope.
So I was just like, okay, it's a little league at the local center, and I'm just like, okay, I mean, well, I guess we'll join it and see. Little did I know how hard it was going to be, because I was averaging maybe on just a regular old house shot, I was probably about, what was I, like 140?
You were in the 140s, I would say, at that point.
Yeah, 140s. I've been bowling for a couple months.
Yeah, not long, because that was a fall league that you signed up for. It was like September or October it got started.
It was like
a short,
October
like
of
10-week league.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was bowling for a couple months.
You were not, but I mean the improvement that you made in that amount of time. Was pretty good.
I mean, that's very quick.
But yeah, the sports shot was very different. I remember you bowled a really good first game, and everybody was like, "Who's this new kid?" And then the next few games were not.
Next few games were not even close to 100. And so it was just kind of weird to have like, oh, I'm used to my ball doing this, and now it's not doing what I want it to do, because. And then I just, I did more YouTubing and more research to figure out what on earth this sports shot is. And then I found out that it's the oil on the lane, which I knew there was oil on the lane, but I didn't know there were different conditions and different types and whatever. So.
I still remember what it was like. You mean there's like they can change the oil? I just thought there was oil.
Yeah.
Right? Yeah, I remember that
thing.
realization, being the dumb, parent who doesn't know anything. It's like, oh, okay. And then they show you the patterns, like this is how it goes out to the gutter. Like it's the length and how much oil there is, the volume and all
you got
that.
different graphs and whatever, different volumes.
I still don't understand it totally, but I leave it to you.
I learn every day.
Yeah,
so
it's like
I mean,
you're the one
I've learned more about this. And there's, thousands of them out there. And So I mean, I wasn't doing the greatest in that league. I mean, I probably averaged about 120. And I mean, still, I mean, for something that, I mean, I'm happy that I went over 100 for something like that, only bowling for, a month or two. And so.
It made you better.
Oh, yeah.
It made you really think hard about whether this was something that you wanted to do. And, you accepted the challenge right away.
Yeah, because it got harder, and I was just like, okay, I like a challenge.
Yeah.
So that's really where it got started. And with the leagues and all that, and then I found out there were different leagues, and then it was just a big thing.
Tours, like we started getting involved in the Mid-Atlantic Bowlers Tour, some things up in Pennsylvania we started doing.
Yeah.
And then it led to the Storm Youth Championships, the SYCs, all over the place. Started doing, but you got to be like a regular on those things.
Oh yeah, I mean the Storm Youth Championships. I mean they really exposed me to all these different people and different conditions, and it was really it was tough, and in the formats and all that, they're so grueling. You just gotta make sure that you're on your top game there. So I mean it's very hard, but man, I can tell you I recommend it all the time because it's the people that run it, Leanne and Gary Hulsenberg and Blair Blumenscheid, they do a great job there. And if you're a kid out there that wants to have some tournament to bowl, I mean they have one every month except for January and December, so they have 10 out of the year.
Hopefully there'll be one near you. They go all over the country.
Yeah, they go everywhere.
Texas, Carolinas.
Texas will actually be in February here.
Yeah,
so.
I was thinking that's the first one of this year. Well, before we get too long on this segment, I mean, I think that's good. Like I said, the origin story. There are plenty of other things we can talk about as far as we definitely in some future show we got to get into your junior gold experiences. But maybe that'll be for episode 2 or further down the road. But in the interests of time, we are moving on to segment number 2. Segment 2. What would a YouTube podcast be about bowling if it didn't have a ball review in it? This will probably be a pretty common segment here, and Trevor's done on his Facebook page, which you should find Trevor Ashby Bowler. You should look for that on Facebook, Instagram, right? You're over there too?
I'm over there too. I don't post as much over there, but I'm more active on Facebook than Instagram,
okay.
but I still post.
You can see some of the ball reviews and other things that he's done on social media before, but we're going to talk about a specific ball that's pretty new for early 2024 here, right? So which one are we talking about?
The 900 Global Harsh Reality. I can tell you right away that this ball looks great. I mean, the orange and the black, I mean, they really go together, and the way that they roll down the lane just makes it's just eye candy. So we'll throw some shots in here of me throwing this, and actually I'll say that I threw the front 10 with this ball. I don't want to talk about the 11 shot, but no, I split. But I'll show the picture there here. But this ball is actually, it's very, very aggressive. If anything in the Storm line that I would compare it to is probably something like maybe like a stronger DNA or something. And like the DNA was really strong, but it had a little bit of, I guess, pop down lane. This one is more tumbly. So it really wants to read early and, go through the pins real strong. And that was my very first 10 shots with it, like out of box, never threw it. And I'd say, like, if you're on anything higher volume, maybe something a little bit flatter, you can play more up the lane with this. It would fit in your bag really good. Would recommend to anyone, definitely for sure. Yeah, go get one today. It'll be great.
So you tend to have a kind of a higher rev rate, two-handers. So for people who bowl similarly, I mean, they can see on the pictures how you bowl. There's a lot of younger bowlers, especially, who you have a similar style to, a lot of two-handers these days. How did you have it drilled, or how did you drill it whenever you did it? What was your...
My layout was like 5 inches from my PAP. For those that you don't know, my positive axis point, the spot where the ball spins around, we measure things from there. We'll get into that even more later. But
I don't know what all
Yeah.
of this means.
yeah, it's
I
a lot
sort
of
of
science.
do, but I'm going to pretend like I don't. I really don't know a lot.
yeah.
Anyway,
But,
continue.
well, I'll teach you.
Yeah, I'm going to
So,
learn at this
yeah,
podcast.
You're gonna learn. I drilled it about 5 inches by about 4, so by I think 3.5. So it'll be a little bit weaker of a layout for something like this, but it's still very aggressive. I mean, don't get me wrong on that. It's very aggressive. And, it's still going to have that tumbly kind of roll, but also, get down there just a little bit further than if I were to, like, put something a little bit stronger on it. But, yeah, so that's my layout. It's weaker.
What conditions would you bowl this one on?
Oh, very high volume stuff. Like, maybe, like, if you're bowling on something like, we'll say, like, Badger, 52 foot, and the lane's only 60 feet long, so we only have 8 feet of dry here. And it's like, very high in volume. So you want your ball to start really early and just kind of roll. I'd suggest it on something like that. Or if you want to go something a little bit shorter, maybe like a 40-foot US Open shot, something like that. Real flat, high volume, and you can play kind of up the lane with this. So I would suggest something like that.
I will do that next time I'm on the lanes. Okay. Thank you for the ball review. Harsh Reality,
Yeah, no
900
problem.
Global. Go get yourself one. I'm sure that SPI will get it right out to you because it's brand new and it's hot at the moment.
Very hot.
All right, so segment 3 now. Segment 3 will be, most podcasts that are of this sort of nature would have this kind of segment, Q&A. And if you want to bring your own questions to the podcast, there will be plenty of ways to contact us. We'll put the email address right here so that you can see where to mail. Or, if you follow Trevor on Facebook, that's another way to get to him. But you can send in your questions. But since this is the first podcast, clearly we don't have any other questions. And I hope to gosh that some of you out there send us questions so I'm not the one coming up with them all the time. Anyway, I didn't want to go with a super obvious question for this one, but my question to you is going to be, because I honestly don't know the answer to this. I have kind of an idea. But let's say you were to, go to a tournament and you wanted to have your ideal sports shot pattern out there. For you, what would you love to see on the sheet whenever you walked into the center?
Something very flat and hard. Because for me, I love a challenge. I love it to be like a shot maker's tournament, as we like to call it. Like if you're walking into a bowling center, you don't want it to be like you're shooting 250, 260 and you feel like you're climbing only 2 spots. So like, and like PBA tournaments, I mean, as much as I love them, they can be that way sometimes.
As we've learned. Yes.
Yeah.
Doing a couple
the Players
PTQs
Championship.
now.
Yeah, the Players Championship out in Wichita, Kansas. The scores were so high.
You finished plus, but you were like middle of the pack.
Yeah, I finished like plus 30 something. I was averaging about 205 to 210. And I was still like middle of the road, and I was just like, man, for my first event, I finished plus, and it was really, really hard. And so I want something really flat, really hard, something like maybe like 41 to 2 feet and like maybe 30 milliliters. Very high in volume, very flat, very hard. I want it to be, you got to earn it. I want it to be something like that. I want it to be like, you got to earn it. But I don't want it to be so impossible that you feel like you're tearing your hair out game 1. So like maybe make it like a ratio of maybe 2 to 1. Like something like if you look this up, I'll flash it on the screen here. The US Open PTQ pattern from this year. It's pretty flat. It's pretty high in volume, and it gives you that ratio to where like it won't punish you too bad for a bad shot, but it'll reward you for a good shot, which is what I like.
I think most bowlers would like that.
Oh yeah.
You don't want it to be super difficult out there. All right, but yeah, you don't want like a house shot, I guess, when you're out there doing it. Everybody, and you got 300s out the wazoo.
And you feel like you're fighting for your life shooting 220.
Yeah. All right, cool. All right, well, as we're getting close to the end here, obviously, we're on segment pin 4. Segment 4, let's wrap it up. What's next? What's coming this week? We're recording this on lovely Valentine's Day here at the studio. It's Valentine's Day today, so middle of February. What are you doing now?
Well, this weekend, starting on Friday, Friday I'll be heading out to Louisville, Kentucky for the Bradley Open. If anyone who's bowled this event, or maybe if you've never heard of it, just let me tell you, it's going to be hard. In our last segment, we talked about patterns and stuff. Yeah, this one's going to be tearing your hair out game 1. So it's going to be very hard. It's going to be very grinding. But that's going to be the first. I kind of have a double whammy here. And then I'll be heading up to Anderson, Indiana from there to bowl the Indiana Classic, PBA, up in Championship Lanes, which I bowled there before, but it's been a long, long time. It was at Junior Gold a couple years ago.
Indy feels like you're home away from home.
I know. Like
Whether
I've
it's
been
youth
there,
tour
I've
or
been
the
there
pros
so many
now.
times. I mean, I
should just move there.
yeah, I know. And I can tell you, I can get around like crazy there. I mean, I feel like a local. So that's really what's next, and hopefully we can just grind it out and make sure that we can make some cuts here, and yeah, it'll be cool.
The goal for this year is
obviously make a cut out of the PTQs.
Right.
So and from there we'll just take it step by step. But
Right.
Yeah, it's going to be hard, but I'm up for the challenge.
Yeah, and it's you technically should be in your finishing up your senior year of high school right now. So the fact that that
I'm doing this,
right. For those who don't know, Trevor was homeschooled, so we were like, okay, this is what he wants to do. He has a birthday early in the school year, so we're like, okay, you've done everything that you need to do. We know what you want to do. College isn't happening yet. If it does, maybe we'll get into that in a future show. But we're like, okay, let's just go start doing this now. We don't want to waste a season that you could be doing, because PBA season starts right at the beginning of the year.
And it's not very long either.
Right, so we had to jump on it. So ending the youth career, I know, was a little kind of bittersweet, but now we're on to things. So make it through the PTQ and see what you can do from there. We don't need it all at once.
Nope.
But not everybody's an Anthony Simonson, coming out of the gate. But we're really excited for the journey, and we're happy that you're joining us now, whether you're watching this right whenever it comes out, or you're coming to this later on after we've hopefully got several episodes under our belts. We might change the look of this here.
We're just in our garage.
Right. This is the space that we have available to us. Maybe we'll, if it takes off, who knows? We might get ads on this thing and monetize it. We'll just, building the brand here is what we're trying to do. So we thank you for tuning in and for being a part of it. As we get out of here, what's your strike song if you make it to the show this weekend?
Big Time by Peter Gabriel.
See, I raised him right. 80s music. Okay, folks, thanks for tuning in to the Trip 4. Subscribe to the channel, and we will see you. We'll try to do a couple of these a month, maybe. It depends on his schedule, my schedule, what we can do. But, don't expect like every Friday or whatever we're going to bring this out. We're here when we're here. Follow on Facebook, follow on Instagram, and just make sure that you like, subscribe, do all that stuff that the kids do these days.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Take care, and we'll see you on the lanes.
See you around.
Trips and fours.
Yes.